We're at the Gemara on the bottom of Daf Memhei Amud Beis, the last word Meisvei. The Gemara here is going to bring a Braisa as a question on what we were discussing here in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. The Gemara here brought in the name of Rabbi Yochanan regarding the bracha on Sukkah and the bracha on Lulav, all 7 days of Sukkahs. Rabbi Bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that on the Sukkah you make a bracha every day of Sukkahs because the mitzvah Minat Torah is every day. On Lulav, because the mitzvah Minat Torah is only the first day, so you only make the bracha on the first day of Sukkahs. But then Ravin said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that both Lulav and Sukkah, you make the bracha every single day of the Sukkahs. Meisvei. So on this the question was asked from a Braisa where it says, Lulav la'atzmai, a person that prepares the Lulav for himself. Oimer, so he says, Baruch shechiyana v'kimana v'giyana l'zman hazeh. He makes a bracha of shechiyana. But this is only a lulav that he prepares for himself, as Rashi here says. Not loy lotzis boy. Then when it comes the first day of Sukkot, and he took the lulav to do the mitzvah, so then he makes the bracha, Baruch ha-shekechana b'mitzvaysa v'tzivanu al netilas lulav. V'afal pi shebirach alav yayim rishayin. And even after he made the bracha on the first day of Sukkot, chayzer u'mevarech kol shiva. He makes again the bracha each day of Sukkot, all 7 days. You build a sukkah for yourself. So you make the bracha Baruch shechayana v'kimanu cholo. Nichnas leishav ba, when you go into the sukkah to fulfill the mitzvah the first night of Sukkot. Oimer shekachana b'mitzvah v'tzivanu leishav b'sukkah. And v'kivin shebirach yaim rishayin. Once you made the bracha the first day of Sukkot, shuv einem mevarach. You don't make the bracha on Sukkah again the rest of the days. So kashya, lulav al lulav. So we have a question from what it says here in the Braisa regarding lulav. That you make the bracha all the days of Sukkot. And Rabbi Bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that you only make the bracha on lulav the first day, because only then it's Minat Torah. And kashya, sukkah, sukkah. And there's a contradiction regarding the halacha of the bracha on Sukkah. In this Braisa it says that you make the bracha on Sukkah only the first day. And Rabbi Yochanan, both Rabbi Bar Chana and Ravin said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that on Sukkah you make the bracha every single day. So the Gemara says, Bishleime lulav al lulav loy kashya, regarding the question of lulav, whether you make the bracha every day or only the first day. So that's not a question. Kan bizman shebeis hamikdash kayim, in the time when the Beis Hamikdash is standing, so then you make the bracha every day, and that's what the Braisa is speaking about. And kan bizman she'ein Beis Hamikdash kayim. And before, Rabbi Bar Chana was speaking about after the time when the Beis Hamikdash is not standing, so then you don't make the bracha every day. So that contradiction we could answer. Hello, sukkah, sukkah, kashya. The question regarding a sukkah, whether you make the bracha every day or not, that remains a question. So the Gemara says, Tanoihi. This over here is dependent in a machlekes Tanoim regarding another mitzvah. The Tanya, we learned in the Braisa. Tefillin, kolzman shemanichon mevorach alein. Tefillin, whenever you put on the tefillin, you're putting on the tefillin in the morning, then you have to take it off, you put it on later in the day. Every time you put on the tefillin in that day, you make a new bracha. Divrei Rabbi, that's Rabbi's opinion. Right? Even though you already put it on in the morning 100 times in the day, as Rashi says, you have to make the bracha again. Chachamim Maimrim, the Chachamim say, Einu mevorach ela shachris bolvad. You only make the bracha once a day in the morning, and then you put it on again, you don't have to make a bracha again. So same machlekes is also regarding Sukkah. By Sukkah, even though you have the days and then the nights, right? So the machlekes over here is it's considered to be one long time of the mitzvah because you're chayiv in the mitzvah by day and by night. So, but nevertheless, according to the first opinion in this Braisa, Rebbe, just like by tefillin, in the same day you can make the bracha 100 times. The same thing regarding the Sukkah, even though it's one long hemshech, you always chayiv in the mitzvah. Whenever you leave the Sukkah long enough, K'shoy Shtayim, the Alter Rebbe says in Shulchan Aruch, and then you come back, so then you have to make a new bracha. But according to the Chachamim, that say by Tefillin, that in the same day you don't make a new bracha, so the same thing by Sukkah. Since the whole Yontiv is like one long Chiv, one long Zman of the mitzvah, so you don't make a new bracha. Hitmer, so we learned a machlekes about this. Who's the halacha like? Abaye Oma Hilchas Rebbe. Abaye said the halacha is like Rebbe, that you make the bracha on tefillin every time again, and by Sukkah as well, you make the bracha on Sukkah every time again. The Rava says Hilchas Rabbanon. The halacha is like the Rabbanon, that you only make the bracha once in the morning. Omar Rav Mari, Bera, the Bas Shmuel. Mari, the grandson of Shmuel said, Chazine leile Rave, I saw myself Rave, de loy ovid kishmaite. He himself did not do like what he paskined. He paskined like Rabbanan, that you don't make the bracha again and again, but nevertheless, I saw that he did not do himself like what he paskined. Ella, rather, what did he do? Maktim v'koi, he wakes up early, v'ayel beis hakisei, and he goes to the bathroom. V'nafik, he comes out, and Moshi Yodeh washes his hands. V'manach tefillin, he puts on tefillin, and mevarich, he makes the bracha. V'chiyitzrich zimna achriti, ayel beis hakisei. So if again, he has to take off the tefillin, and then goes to the bathroom, v'nafik, and comes out, and Moshi Yodeh, and washes his hands. Umanach tefillin, and he puts on the tefillin, and mevarich. And he makes the bracha again, like Rabbi's opinion, even though he didn't paskin like Rabbi. And we also do like Rabbi, umevarchen kol shiva, and we make the bracha on the Sukkah all 7 days of the Yom Tov. I saw Rav Papa the chol emes the monach tefillin mevarech. Whenever he would put on the tefillin, anytime during the day, he had to take it off and put it on again. He made a bracha. Rabbana de Ravashi, the Rabbanan by Ravashi kol emes the memash meshibahu. Anytime they would touch the tefillin to remind themselves that they're wearing tefillin. One of the halachos of tefillin is that you're not supposed to be Masiach Das. As we learned this in the Gemara, that it's a kavachayim from the tzitz that only has the Eibish's name once. So every time they would be touching the tefillin to remind themselves that they're wearing it, mevarchi, they would also make a bracha. However, Taisus here says that it's not clear which bracha they would make. The bracha la'niach tefillin, once you're wearing it, and you're just reminding yourself that you're wearing it, how could you make the bracha lehaniach, to put it on? So Taisus says they would make the bracha lishmeir es chukav, which is a bracha that you would make, that the Gemara brings in Masechta Nida, that they would make when they would take off the tefillin. That's the bracha that they would make every time they touched the tefillin. Amar Rav Yudah Shmuel, mitzvahs, lulav, kol shiva. Rav Yudah said in the name of Shmuel, when it comes to the mitzvah of lulav, you have to make the bracha all 7 days. Rabbi Shua ben Levi Amar, Yom Risha in mitzvahs lulav. The first day where the mitzvah of lulav is menat Torah, so you make the bracha. Mekam ve'elech, the rest of the day is mitzvahs kenim. This is the mitzvah of the zakenim, which are the chachamim. And Rashi says mitzvahs kenim refers to Rav Yecharim ben Zakkai that made the takana after the time of the Beis Hamikdash. So on that, you don't make a bracha. Rav Yitzchak Amar, Rav Yitzchak says, Kol yoyme mitzvahs kenim. All of the days of Sukkot, the mitzvah of lulav is the mitzvah of the zakenim, of the chachamim. Fragt the Gemara v'afilu Yom Rishon. That includes even the first day of Sukkot. V'akaimelam, but we know Yom Rishon de'eraisa. When it says L'kachtem lachem b'Yom Rishon, that refers to every place in the world that the mitzvah is the first day minat Torah. Eime b'ame Yom Rishon. When Rabbi Yitzchak said every day is the mitzvah skenim, that's excluding the first day. Fragt the Gemara, so Yachi Einad Rabbi Shua ben Levi. If so, Rabbi Yitzchak is saying the exact same thing as Rabbi Shua ben Levi. What's the difference? You're right, so you have to read it that this is what Rabbi Yitzchak said, the same as Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Va'af Rav Sovar, and Rav also held like Shmuel, that called Shiva mitzvahs lulav, that you have the mitzvah of lulav all 7 days, and you make the bracha on the lulav all 7 days. When you light the ner of Chanukah, you have to make a bracha. So the point is, even though ner Chanukah is a mitzvah midrabanan, nevertheless you make a bracha. So the same thing Rav here holds regarding the lulav, that even though the rest of the days are only a mitzvah midrabanan, you make a bracha. Rabbi Yirmiyah said, so the Gemara here brings now the halacha of the bracha of ner Chanukah. Haroye ner shel Chanukah tzarech levarech. Someone that could not light the ner Chanukah, and he's going in the street, and he sees in the doorway of a Yid that he did a mitzvah, and he sees the ner Chanukah there, you have to make a bracha. Mai mevarech. What bracha does he make? Amar Rav Yudah, Yom Rishon, on the first day of Chanukah, so the brachas are as follows. Hamadlik, the one that's actually lighting, mevarech shalish, he makes 3 brachas. Haroye mevarech shtayim, the one that sees only makes 2 brachas. Mikan ve'elech. Then, after the first day of Chanukah, Madlik, the one that lights, Mevarach Shtayim, makes 2 brachas. V'roya, and the one that sees the ner Chanukah, Mevarach Achas, makes only 1 bracha. Umay Mevarach, so what are these brachas that you make? Baruch Asher Kitshana b'mitzvaysa v'tzivanu lahadlik ner Chanukah. You make the bracha v'tzivanu, to light the ner Chanukah. So that's the main bracha that you make on the mitzvah. And besides that, of course, you make the bracha Shas Nisim and Shechayanu on the first night. So v'heicha on Tzivanu, where is the V'tzivanu? Where did the Eibishter command us to fulfill this mitzvah in the Torah? And for the Gemara, miloi sasor, when it says in the Torah, loi sasor min adava she'yigid locha yamin val smail, that you always have to listen to what the Chachamim tell you, that's the source, that when Chachamim institute a mitzvah, you must listen to them. That's the V'tzivanu. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Sha'al avicha v'yageitcha. The source, the pasuk is where it says that you should ask, you should listen to your father, to the Chachamim, to the Zekanim, and whatever they tell you, you should listen to. That's the source that you have to listen to the Chachamim. Now go ahead here, this is a piece that's really in the Gemara Shabbos. It doesn't really belong here. The Marshal takes it out. This is Mai Memayit. This is asking when you change the number of the brachas from the first day to the second and the rest of the days of Hanukkah, which bracha do you take out after the first day? Zman. You take out Zman, which is Shechayanu. Eime Memayit Nes. Maybe you should be Memayit. You should not make the bracha Shasa Nisim after the first Nes. Nes Kol Yomei Yisei. Nes, every day there was an additional Nes that had continued burning, the candles of the Ner Chanukah or the Ner in the Beis HaMikdash. So therefore that's a bracha that you keep every single day. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Masni lo behedye. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak didn't learn out this that Rav holds, that you make a bracha on lulav every day from Chanukah. He learned it clearly. Omar Rav, kol shiva mitzvahs lulav. All 7 days of Sukkot, you make the bracha on the lulav all 7 days. Tana Rabbana we learned in the Braisa. When you build the sukkah, you make the bracha shechayanu. And then nichnas leishav ba'im barach hashakachana chulu, then you make the bracha on the mitzvah. If the sukkah was already built from before, so when do you make the shechayanu? If there's something new that you could add to the sukkah, so then you'll make the bracha shechayanu then. In lav, and if not, when you enter to sit inside the sukkah, then you make both brachas, the bracha on the mitzvah, leishav basukah, and the bracha shechayanu. However, Rav Ashi said, Chazine leil Rav Kahana. I saw Rav Kahana's custom, the ka'amalu l'kulo akasa de kiddusha, that he made both brachas on the case of kiddush, the bracha leishav basukah, and the bracha of shechayanu, like we do today. So that's the minig that today we make both of them on when we sit in the sukkah the first night of Sukkot. Tana Rabbanon, we learned in the Braisa, of mitzvahs harbe. What's if a person has many mitzvahs to fulfill? For example, Rashi says you're going to do the mitzvah of lulav, sukkah, tefillin, tzitzis, all at once. So which bracha do you make? Aime barach hashekeshanu b'mitzvaysa v'tzivanu ala mitzvahs. You make one bracha, all-inclusive bracha on all of these mitzvahs, and you yaitza for them. Rabbi Yudah says, Mevarech al kol achas va'achas b'fnei atzma. You have to make a separate individual bracha for each one of them. Amar Rab Zeire, v'yiteimer Rab Chanina bar Papa. So Rab Zeire said, and others say Rab Papa said, Hilchase ke Rab Yehuda. The halacha is like Rab Yehuda, that we make a separate bracha for each one of them. V'amar Rab Zeire v'yiteimer Rab Chanina bar Papa. My taimed Rab Yehuda. What's Rab Yehuda's reason that we make a separate bracha? Why can't you just make one bracha to include all the mitzvahs? The chsiv, because the pasuk says, Baruch Hashem, yoim, yoim. I bench the Eibishter day by day. What is this pasuk saying? That we bench the Eibishter by day. Does that exclude at night? By night we don't bench the Eibishter. Ella, what this pasuk is teaching me is, every day individually, 10 loy me'em b'chaysav. Give the Eibishter the bracha what it deserves for that day. As Rashi explains, what this refers to is when you daven, you say the bracha in Shmoneh Esrei on Shabbos, so you have to say the bracha connected to Shabbos. During the week, you say a bracha connected to the week. You can't make an all-inclusive bracha always for the same bracha. Every day, accordingly, what that day is. Here as well, when it comes to the mitzvahs, every mitzvah, 10 loy me'em b'chaysav. Say a bracha connected to that mitzvah, tilas lulav and l'sativ batzitzis, whatever it is, every mitzvah should have a different bracha. So this Gemara is the source of the concept that the Rebbe always brings, what it says in Chassidus, the two aspects of what mitzvahs have. Every mitzvah is a ratzon of Hashem. In that sense, all mitzvahs are the same. And that was the opinion of the Tana here, was it the Tanakama that said that you make a bracha ala mitzvahs. And that's what the essence of a mitzvah is, the ratzon of the Eibishter. But Rabbi Yehuda says there's another prat in a mitzvah. Every mitzvah has a different tamshacha, has a different detail of what it addresses, of what it accomplishes. So therefore the bracha has to include also the detail of what this mitzvah is. Come and see, come and see, shaloi, ki midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, midas basa v'dam. The Eibishter's character, the Eibishter's behavior is not like it is by a human being. Midas basa v'dam, the nature of human beings is, kli reika machzik. An empty vessel could contain. Malay, a vessel that's full, ena machzik, it can't contain. Aval midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by the midah by the Eibush it is, and this refers to learning the Eibush's Torah. Malay machzik, if you're full with Torah, then you'll be able to contain more. Reikon, but if you're empty, if you have no Torah, then ena machzik, then you won't be able to learn more. Shenemar v'hoyem shemoya tishma v'goymer. That if you're going to learn and you're going to hear, then you'll hear more, you'll be able to contain even more. Im shemoya tishma v'im lav loy tishma. If you hear, if you start learning a little and you start filling yourself up, so then you become a keli to contain even more. Davar acher, another pshat on this pasuk, im shemoya b'yashon. If you listen and you hear what's old, which means that you review what you've learned and you retain the information of what you've learned before, then tishma b'chodosh. Then you'll be able to learn and understand the new things that you learn as well. V'im yifne levavcha. But if your heart turns away, shuv loy tishma. You give up on what you learned and you never do chazara on what you learned before, so then you're not going to be matzliach on the new Torah that you learn. Sagt the Gemara, it said in the Mishnah, miyat tinaikis v'chulu, that from the hands of the children they would pull away their lulavim. And they would then eat their esrogim, they would take their esrogim from them. Sagt the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan explains, Esrig b'shvi aser. The esrig, on the 7th day, on the Shana Rabbah of Sukkot, it's still aser to have a na of it. B'shmini, on the 8th day, on the next day, mutter. Then you could have a na, you can eat it. Sukkah, when it comes to the Sukkah, afilu b'shmini asura. On the 8th day, it's also asur. Gemara will soon explain why. We had this concept, the source of all of this is before in the Gemara, where it explained that esrig and Sukkah becomes all asur to have a na from in the time of the mitzvah. So therefore, the Gemara is saying that when it comes to the esrig, the time of the mitzvah is on the 7th day, and then it's asur, but on the 8th day it's mutter. But Sukkah, even on the 8th day, even though it's not Sukkot anymore, it's Shmini Atzeres, it's also going to be Yasser. That's Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Rish Lakish says, Esrig afilu b'shvi'i nami muter. The Esrig, even on the 7th day itself, once you did the mitzvah with it, it's going to be muter to use. What's the basis of the machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish regarding the Esrig? Mar Savar, the mitzvah is katzoi. Rish Lakish's opinion is the mitzvah is designated and it's also to have a na of it while it's designated for the mitzvah. But once you did the mitzvah in the morning, you took the lulav and esrog and you're done with the mitzvah, so that's it. It's not anymore designated for the mitzvah, and now you can have a na of it. Mar Savar, however, Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is Lokule Yaime is katzoi. That the esrig is designated for the mitzvah and you're not allowed to have a na of it the entire day. So only on the 8th day could you have a na of it. Eis, Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. So Rish Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan from our Mishnah. It said, Miyad, Tinaikis, Shemtnes, Luavein, Vaichlan, Esregeyen. From the hands of the children, they would grab out their lulavin and they would eat their esregim. So when was this? My love, don't you think? It says here that they would do this when? After they finished the mitzvah on the 7th day. It says they would take it from the children. They would eat the esregim from the children. So don't you think, Hu adin legedalim? That is, he's just telling you what happened, that they did it to the children. But the same thing is also the adults, their esrogim, they would eat on the 7th day. So you see, like Rish Lakish said, once the mitzvah is done, it's not designated for the mitzvah anymore. You can have a na of it even on the 7th day. So the Gemara loi, that's not the way you learn this. Tinoike is dafke. It says specifically in the Mishnah they would grab the esrogim of the children to eat, because the esrogim of the adults cannot be eaten until tomorrow, like Rabbi Yochanan said. Others say that the reverse happened here. Eisvei Rabbi Yochanan l'Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan asked a question to Rish Lakish. And it says here, from the hands of the children, they would grab out the lulavim and eat the esregim on the 7th day itself. So tinaikis in. It specifically says from the children, but gedolim loy. But from the adults, they would not eat their esregim on this day. So that's a question on Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish says, even on the 7th day, you're done with the mitzvah, you can eat it right away. So Rish Lakish answers, Hu adin dafili gedolim. Truth is, the same would be done. They would eat the esregim from the gedolim as well. Hi, the ketani tinaikis. This that it says, tinaikis, orche, the milsa, ketani. It's only saying the orche, the milsa, the habit, the way it was, that from the tinaikis, they would grab it away. That was the simcha, the way it was done. But really, the same thing is allowed also with the esregim from the gedolim. Amalei Rav Papa Abaye. Rav Papa said to Abaye. So now, let Rabbi Yochanan. According to Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, Ma'ishna Sukkah, Ma'ishna Esrog. What's the difference between Sukkah and Esrog? If Rabbi Yochanan is saying that once it's designated for the mitzvah, it's designated for the entire day, so why when it comes to Esrig, so it's Asr only the entire last day of Sukkah on Shana Rabbah, but not on Shmini Atzeres. And when it comes to Sukkah, it's Asr to have a know of it, even on Shmini Atzeres as well. Amalei, so he answered him, Sukkah, the Chazye lebein hashmoshes. The mitzvah of Sukkah, which is fit to be fulfilled at the time of Ben Hashmoshes. What does that mean? The Yisrami le'isudase, if it comes and happens to be that he wants to eat something, then, right then by Ben Hashmoshes, between the Shana Rabbah and Shmini Atzeres, so boy meisa begavo meichel, begavo, he has to sit inside the Sukkah and eat inside the Sukkah. So once the Sukkah then has to be used for the mitzvah, so is katzoi lebein hashmoshes. So at that time of Ben Hashmoshes, it's still designated for the mitzvah. Umigud is katzoi lebein hashmoshes. Once it's designated at that time when the yontiv of the Shmini Atzeres enters, is katzoi lekul yoma. We follow that time and it remains designated for the rest of the day. But when it comes to Esrig, lekul yoma the Shmini, for the entire 8th day. Esrig, deloi chazi lebein hashmoshes. And Esrig though, that is not fit for the time for Ben Hashmoshes to do the mitzvah of Esrig. You do the mitzvah once in the day, in the morning. You did the mitzvah already. So then by Ben Hashmoshes, there's no doing the mitzvah of lulav at that time. So therefore, lo is katzoi lebein hashmoshes. At Ben Hashmoshes, it's not a time where the mitzvah, where Esrig and the lulav is designated for the mitzvah. V'lo is katzoi lekul yoma the Shmini. So therefore, the lulav and esrog is not designated for the mitzvah for the entire 8th day, and therefore on the 8th day you can use it for the mitzvah. Levi Amar, Levi says, esrog afile b'shmini yaser. Levi argues on both opinions before, and he says, not only is the sukkah forbidden to be used on the 8th day, even the esrog is also aser for the entire 8th day. According to Levi, since, like Rabbi Yochanan said, the esrog is designated for the mitzvah the entire day, all the way up to Ben Hashmoshes, even though you can't actually fulfill, you're not fulfilling the mitzvah by Ben Hashmoshes, but it's katzoi for the mitzvah the entire day into Ben Hashmoshes. Once it includes into the time of Ben Hashmoshes, it gets designated the entire 8th day as well. The father of Shmuel said, esrog b'shvi aser. Esrog is not allowed to be used on the 7th day, but b'shmini mutter. On the 8th day on Shmini Atzeres it is allowed. And then the Gemara says the father of Shmuel changed his opinion. Kama vua de Shmuel b'shitase de Levi. The father of Shmuel then took up Levi's opinion, which is that it's also even on the 8th day. And Kam Rab Zeire b'shitase de avua de Shmuel. Rab Zeire, he then had the opinion of the father of Shmuel. Rab Zeire esrig shenifsela. Esrog that became pasul, asala oichla, kol shiva. You're not allowed to eat it all the 7 days of Sukkot, but on the 8th day you're allowed. Rab Zeire said another halacha regarding the daled minim. A person should not give as a gift his lulav and esrog to his son, to a cotton that's on the bar mitzvah, on the 1st day of Yontif. My timer, what's the reason? The yenuke mikni kani. A child has the koyach to be kaina, and it should be his, but aknuye loy makni. But then to give it back to you as a gift, to sell it back to you, that it should become yours again, that he can't do. Then it will come out, the kanafik belulav shein shaloy. If you're going to take it from the child and you want to be yaitza now with this lulav, you're using a lulav that's not yours, because he can't give it back to you. So, according to Rashi, the fact that a child could be kaina and he can't be makna is because there's a takana midrabanan. There's a takana midrabanan that a child could be kaina. But that takana is only that he could be kaina, but not that he could be makna, so he can't give it back to you. According to Taisvis, the child minatayra could be kaina. If I sell something to a child, I give it to a child, minatayra is kaina. But he does not have the das to give it back. He doesn't know what it means to give, so he doesn't have the das to give it to you. So therefore you can't give the child a lulav as a matana. Now there's a machlokes rishonim about what the Gemara is speaking about. Is the Gemara only speaking about a case where you just give it to him as a gift? And then I say that he can't sell it back, he can't give it back to you as a gift. Then it's a problem. However, according to this opinion, if you're going to tell the child clearly that you're giving it to him as a matana al manas lahachzer, then he uses it, and then as soon as he gives it back to you, you do get it back from him. You are kained back from the child, and it's okay. So therefore, the way we do today, when we give it as a matana manas lahachzer, that can be done with a child as well. But other Rishonim argue and say that no, what it says here in our Gemara doesn't make a difference if you give it to him as a gift, and you don't say anything. Even if you give it to him and you clearly say a matana al manas lahachzer, it doesn't help. A child knows how to take it, but he doesn't know what it means to give it back. So if he can't give it back to you, the matana was never a matana, and he can't give it back to you, so he's not going to be yetzer the mitzvah. So therefore, it doesn't work to do it that way. Rab Zayde said now b'chlal that loylemi inish leinuke, a person should not tell a child that I'm going to give you something. Don't promise a child you're going to give him a gift or give him a prize for something and you don't end up giving it to him. You're coming to teach him to lie. They get accustomed to saying a lie when they see that they're promised things and they don't get it. Now the Gemara comes back to this machlokes over here that we had all the way in the beginning. The machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish regarding the esrog. Rabbi Yochanan said that the esrog is also the entire Shana Rabbah, and Reish Lakish said that the esrog is only also till after you fulfill the mitzvah. So the Gemara says, "Ubeplukte the Rabbi Yochanan and Reb Shimon ben Lakish," and we have the same machlokes like Rabbi Yochanan and Reb Shimon ben Lakish right over here. The Itmar we learned the following machlokes: Hifrish shiva esrogim l'shiva yamim. If a person designated 7 different esrogim for 7 different days. So, of Sukkot. So, Rav says, Kol achas v'achas yaitze. So each one, you do the mitzvah with it on that day. And then, v'yechlol alter, as soon as you're done with the mitzvah that you did for that, the lulav or the esrog for that day, so then you can eat it right away. Ravasi says, Kol achas v'achas yaitze. Each one, you do the mitzvah and you yaitze for its day. But v'yechlol lamacha, you're going to have to wait until the next day, tomorrow, until you could have a no from the esrog. What's the machlokes based on? The same machlokes that Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish argued about. Mar savar lemitzvasa es katzoi. Rav says that the esrog is designated for the mitzvah. So if it's an esrog designated only for one day, as soon as you finish the mitzvah that day, you can eat it. Mar savar, whereas Rav Asi holds the kuli yom is katzoi. The esrog is designated for that entire day. So you have to wait until the next day in order to be able to have a no from it. So the Gemara Vanan, the Islam Terei Yaimi. We have 2 days of the Yom Tif of Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. So this is the 8th day, Shmini Atzeres, and then the 9th day. So Heichi of Dinan. What's our minig? What do we do as far as the mitzvah of lulav and esrog is concerned? So the 8th day and the 9th day, is it going to be mutter on the 8th day or on the 9th day? What do we do? So the Gemara brings here a machlokes. Amar Abaye says Shmini, which is suffix Shvi, the 8th day, which is a suffix, that it could be the 7th day. That's why we keep 2 days of Yom Tov, so therefore Aser. The esrog is going to be Aser on the 7th day as well. On the 8th day as well, that is. Even though we don't actually do the mitzvah on the 8th day, because it's Muktzah, so we're not going to do the mitzvah, but nevertheless, it's going to be Aser to have a no of it on the 8th day, on Shmini Atzeres. Chi suffix Shmini mutter. But on the 9th day, where the suffix is whether it's the 8th or 9th day, but it's for sure not Sukkot, so on that day the esrog is mutter. Mereimer said, Afil Shmini suffix Shvi mutter. Even today, on the 8th day in Shmini Atzeres, which is a suffix that it would be the 7th day, it's still mutter to use it. But that's a day that we don't take esrog on it today. So therefore, on that day, it's not designated for the mitzvah. Rav Sheisha, Besura of the Kimereimer. In Surah, the minig was like Mereimer, and Rav Sheisha, Bered Ravidi, Ovid Kabaya, and he did like Abaya. And the Hilchas Kabaya, the halach is like Abaya, that even on Shmini Atzeres, the esrog is also to have a no from, but not on the 9th day, but not on Simchas Torah, only on the 8th day, which is a suffix Shvi.